Oh. Hey everybody, welcome to Pealed Back's live conversation with series. I'm your host, Gene Bernier, the enjoyment coach, and today I get to have my good friend, Drew Stevens, on the call today. I've been looking forward to this one. I'm even rocking his Gratitude Beyond the Legacy shirt. This is probably one of my most comfortable workout shirts, so there, merch link has been plugged, my friend. Welcome, Drew. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you, Gene. I think this is a matter of time, right? It's been 11 years, and I'm glad that we're able to get together. And this is actually inspiration for me to start my own podcast and LiveCast, so it's coming soon.
Perfect. I can't wait to see what you're going to come up with it, man. So tell us a little bit about who Drew Stevens is. Let's talk about Beyond the Legacy and talk about your journey to getting there. And as always, we're just going to kind of see where this goes from here.
Okay. Well, Beyond the Legacy is my LLC. It's truly an extension of my DNA. The themes that revolve around Beyond the Legacy, it's basically my storytelling. It's human interest stories on athletes and their impact to society beyond sports. A lot of the stories that I've done have been centered around themes like family, gratitude. And when I look at everything overall, I can't help but realize that at the end of the day, that's something that's always been near and dear to me. It started with my parents. It started with my sister. It started with the friends that I surrounded myself with. Those are the people that have been my backbone and have had my back from day one. And it's just something that's been inside of me. So when I created this LLC, it was truly like a secret extension of me with a twist of what I'm passionate about, which is sports.
Yeah, that's incredible. So as an extension of yourself, like you mentioned the word secret. So I've known about this for a long time, but like this is, you're really putting a lot of effort over 2020 to take this up to that next level. Tell us a little bit about that. And like, you've got a passion for sports, where did that come from? And how are all these pieces of your journey in the past kind of building up to like this awesome thing that you finally get to do that pulls it all together?
All right, so I guess we're on the clock, right? We have plenty of time, and I think folks that are listening live are going to hear a pretty good story, and they're also going to be able to maybe watch the replay if they're not catching it live. So
yeah,
I guess the best way to explain it is my story begins in Morristown, New Jersey. That's where I was born and raised. Today I was actually in Morristown, New Jersey. Got a fresh haircut from my barber, Gilbert. Shout out to Gilbert at High End Barbershop in Morristown, New Jersey. As you know, like people that know me very well, I definitely got a sweet tooth, so I stopped by Anjou, a really phenomenal chocolate shop in Morristown, New Jersey. So shout out to Wendy and the team that always takes care of me and my friends and folks that I share those sweets with. Yeah. And then to close out my day in Morristown, I was actually at Pasquarella Brothers, which is owned by two brothers, Anthony and Gino. And that was my pregame LiveCast meal. Gino hooked me up with a really good cheesesteak. So definitely want to give shout out and love to the community because I'm really passionate about small business. I'm really passionate about my community. And to me, that's where it all starts. Growing up, I played basketball my whole life. I was working since the age of 16. I've been in nonprofit, small business, and corporate life since the age of 16, working in an office part-time to all the way through college. When I was in college, I worked at a real estate company. And like, the honest truth is I always wanted to be in sports, but I found myself interning and then working part-time at a real estate company. And here's the irony. I always tell people, always be self-aware of what you're doing, regardless of the environment, because you never know who's watching. And when I say that, when I was working in sports, there was a person that worked in our insurance department. And he spotted me one day in the parking lot. And he says, Drew, what do you really want to do? He goes, I know you're doing well here. People love you, but is this your end game, like after college, or do you really have a different passion? And that's where I told him about my love for sports. I told him, I said, I don't care what it takes. I'm going to get in the sports industry, and I'm going to do something to fulfill my dream of working in sports.
Yeah.
Fast forward, he just starts laughing at me in the parking lot. And I just said, okay, well, maybe this guy doesn't believe in what I'm talking about. He thinks it's like a pipe dream. But I just said, okay, He goes, no, I'm not laughing at your vision and your idea. I'm laughing at the fact that I know somebody. I know someone that's an executive director for the National Basketball Retired Players Association. It's been called many things over the years in terms of brand evolution. It's been called that. It's been called Legends of Basketball. Current day, it's called the NBA alumni. Like, so it's really the alumni for former professional athletes, NBA veterans, legends of the game, Hall of Famers.
Right.
And I skipped school one day. We go into the city, and then he introduced me to my future boss.
Oh, wow.
The executive director of this nonprofit, which is an extension of the NBA and the Players Association. I end up interning there in the summer. After interning there in the summer, it turns into, when are you going to graduate? When are you going to graduate from college? So I graduate from college in 2002. I start working full-time for the National Basketball Retired Players Association. I was responsible for building their first website. In that time, in 2004, I brought on this amazing company called Treehouse Agency. It's owned by the two brothers, Joe and Mike Caccavano.
Big shout out.
Absolutely. You got to give love to the Caccavano brothers. They're probably maybe listening live. Maybe they're going to catch the replay, but they are a linchpin in terms of my success in life. There's always reasons. So think about 2004. They help create this website for the association. I keep in touch with them more than just a business relationship. I always feel like there's the vendor-client relationship, but then there's also the humanizing that appeal relationship, right? It's just There's certain people that you might take to another level and actually see them at a different level in terms of like, I would have a beer with this person outside of business. I would have a cup of coffee with this person outside of the line of business. And I kept in touch with that family on a personal level. And there was something that happened to his son. He had a medical procedure. And I remember rallying the company together, our team. We had a team of 5. I said, we got to do a really special care package for his son. And we did that, and we sent it out to him, and he was very grateful for it. And I remember years later, we were having dinner, and Joe said, you know what, Drew, what's that moment that I knew we were like family and brothers? It was you extending yourself and sharing your love and care for our family. From that point forward, I knew you were family, and you were family for life. I mean, so when I fast forward, everything I did in sports was event planning for All-Star Weekend, managing the website, updating content for the site, working with sponsors, working with folks that were partners for the organization, helping members with their benefits and pension, and even like going as far as just creating an overseas tour in Bermuda, actually, for some of the guys that are still in playing shape. So like I did a handful of things, but we were such a small office that everybody in the office had to do everything. Right. So you had that ability to see a small business and actually learn the small business from all facets. And from that point forward, I said to myself, like, this is what I love doing. But you know what I love the most about working in sports? It was the relationships. It was the relationships with the athletes and their families. Getting to know them beyond them being this larger than life, like celebrity or superstar, but understanding the human side of them as human beings. They became brothers. They became aunts and uncles and family, where I would travel all over the United States, and I always had someone to possibly pick me up from the airport, possibly take me out to breakfast or dinner, invite them to their house. Like, it was truly love all around the United States with all the people I got to know. Fast forward to 2009, I reached burnout. So you might say, like, well, how does that happen? Burnout really caught me by surprise. I was working in this sports industry under a new executive director that was really, really a workhorse, highly respected. I respect him to this day. But we were grinding. We were in that office 7, 8 o'clock in the morning. We were out of that office 11 o'clock midnight, maybe 4 days out of 5. Yeah. We were doing this for months in a row. And it wasn't until I got to Arizona for All-Star Weekend in February of 2009 that I just took a moment of pause, and I just said, wow, what the hell happened? Like, I was burnt out. I was exhausted. And I remember flying back to New Jersey, and then this is that turning point for me in sports. My best friend that lived in Portland, Oregon, Veronica, passed away in a car accident. I received the phone call from her sister when I was working in the office in New York. And it was that turning point where I had two choices. I could send some flowers and a card and my condolences to the family, or I could stop everything I was doing and hop on a plane and fly out to Portland, Oregon to pay my respects to the family.
Yeah.
I had all of 2 to 3 hours to make that decision while I was in that office. And it was probably the best decision I ever made in my life.
How long did it take you to make that decision?
Oh, excuse me?
I said, how long did it take you to make that decision?
I think, honestly, within 15 to 30 minutes.
Yeah.
You know, there was emotion, there was phone calls I was making. And to me, within 15 to 30 minutes, I just knew that this is something I had to do. This could change my life in terms of this decision, in terms of living in regret or being grateful that I made this decision.
Yeah.
So here I am, I'm calling the travel agent. I'm calling different people to book a flight and hotels, and a member that I know, his wife has relationships with Marriott. So she's setting him up with a hotel, and everything was just a blur. I find myself flying out to Portland, Oregon, and I'm spending time with their family. I'm spending time and paying my respects at the services. And it made me see, just being around family, and it made me see that there's more important things than what I deemed was important, what I thought was sexy, what I thought was like impressive to others when you have a conversation and you say, hey, I work in sports. And they say, what do you do? And it blows their mind if they feel like that's something important to them or resonates with them. And I remember flying back home, and I remember calling my father, and I told my father, I'm just going to be honest with you, job or no job, I'm going to quit. Like, I'm just going to walk away. And I remember my father telling me, I have your back. Your mother and I have your back. And whatever you do, we have your back. So, like, don't even think about what happens after. Just focus on what your heart is telling you to do.
Yeah.
So I land in Newark, New Jersey, and I get a text message from Mike Caccavano. And Mike says, hey, Drew, check your email when you get home. And when I get home, there was an offer letter to his company. So how did this all happen? Like, right? How did this all happen? I knew I was on the way out mentally, and they were privately looking for opportunities for me with clients they work with, like Sony and other folks that they work with.
Yeah.
There was a conversation that happened. I found out later on that Joe, his brother, had a conversation with Mike and said, you're breaking your neck trying to find Drew an opportunity. Why don't you just hire the guy? Like, he can do all the things you need to do as an owner, as, you know, the owner and founder of Treehouse Agency. Like, why don't you just hire Drew and have him work alongside of you? And that was probably the best thing that could have happened to me, because it allowed me to be closer to family. It allowed me to work from home. And it put me in a different space that was not my wheelhouse. And to me, it's like people get afraid to step into a space that's not their wheelhouse.
Right.
But the truth is, it actually taught me a lot about the digital technology and experience space. I got to do a lot of things within Treehouse, and I learned so much from that family and from the teams I've worked with over the years. Like, to me, it's just from that space to another space that I worked in for 8 years, you know, with Phase 2. I have nothing but the utmost respect for Phase 2 and everything I've done and accomplished there, and the people and the relationships I've made. So, like, to me, it's like 11 years in the digital technology space. And without those years, without those companies, it wouldn't allow me to foster and nurture Beyond the Legacy in the background. Like, so Beyond the Legacy was founded in August of 2017. How did that happen, right? How did all this happen? I still have a 9-to-5 job. Yeah. I have a career like this. There's no gap here. I'm balancing the two. However, I look at it this way. The one thing I always challenge myself and I challenge others is like asking yourself, are you happy? Are you happy with what you're waking up to every morning? And if you're not, why aren't you doing something about it? Even if it's not changing your career, but why aren't you doing something to actually nurture that other thing that could be something for you in that near future?
That right there, the thing that people need to hear the most is that nurture component, that it just doesn't happen overnight. And we all go through those times where So it's like, do I really like what I'm doing? Like,
Exactly.
I have the skills. There's no doubt about the skills and the ability, but like, am I jumping out of bed in the morning going, yes, I get to do this? And the answer is no. And you're complaining about it in any shape or form, even to yourself, be like, you need to do yourself that favor and listen to what Drew just said here is start nurturing the things that bring you joy again. Like, yeah, that's a big part of what I speak about as an enjoyment coach, but it's so true. Like, you got to start to nurture and give yourself permission to nurture those things, because so many of us don't, for whatever reason. We think it's the wrong thing to be doing, or what if somebody judges us? Be like, who cares? Be like, it's about doing the inner work, and if you can't get that inner work, and sometimes that inner work takes a long time to like get all right and set that foundation up, and then once it's there, it all starts to click.
Yeah, I feel so. My whole life growing up, I was definitely more introverted. Like, so I was very, one might say back when you're younger, like, oh, he's just shy or he doesn't really have much to say. The scary part was I was always self-aware. I was always self-aware of what was around me. I was always self-aware of the people around me. I was always in tune about timing and communication and when to insert myself. And it relates to present day. All the people that I made relationships with, all the people that I actually got to know over the years, I always kept a part of them in my mind, knowing if I ever get to this point in my life and I want to do X, these are the amazing people and the talented people and the subject matter experts that I know that not only are amazing at what they do, but I actually would love to partner up with them in a different space.
Oh, yeah. So, it's about taking this action. Actually, I was curious about how comments were going to work on this thing. It's like, Ronald's watching this show now.
That's my man.
You just sent us a comment about take action, ignore the fears, and do it anyways. I couldn't agree with you more, Ronald. Like, hey, thanks for watching the show with Drew today. But like, it's spot on to what Drew's talking about.
Oh, absolutely. And Ron and I got a story to tell, which is going to be, we'll save for my podcast. It's a long story about how we met, and it's amazing. So stay tuned and remember Ron, because we're going to tell that story in its form, in its longest form. But
I'm looking forward to that. And now we've also we've got the vocal commitment that there's going to be a Beyond the Legacy podcast coming out soon. So
it's coming. It's coming. Trust me. You can hear it here. I promised everybody. People have been nudging me for years. I said life is about timing. And now that I'm going through some changes and transformations with things, it's going to happen. So I'm going to record quite a few to close out 2020 and have everything ready for 2021. But Ron, we talked about it. Open up your calendar. We're going to make this happen. So it's going to be a very special, emotional story to share how Ron and I met. I won't give anything away, but it's really, really special. But when I think about 2017, this goes back into the nurturing. I had 30 conversations. I picked up the phone and spoke to 30 different people. We're talking athletes, family, friends, executives at the Basketball Hall of Fame. I spoke to people that I knew from my time in sports. I spoke to people that were just subject matter experts in spaces that I may never even dive into, but just having these conversations with people that knew me for so long. The honest truth is this. When I had those 30 conversations, it allowed me to bring clarity to what I want to do. And the one person, I remember I just had a conversation with her recently. Her name is Terry Kinlock. She used to work for the NBA. Terry told me, she said, Drew, you probably can work for the NBA if you really want to come back. Like, we would probably find a way to hire you if you really wanted to come back. But in all honesty, take what you love about what you did in sports. Take what you love, only that, and make it your own with Beyond the Legacy. So that's where the storytelling, that's where helping and finding ways to pay it forward with athletes, family, and friends. That's where gratitude came in. That's where family came in. That's where being able to provide these Monday motivational words of wisdom, because, to me, I received so much advice from a lot of these NBA legends and their families over the years. It's made me who I am today. I can't take credit for who I am today without all the people that surround me and that cheer for me. All those people are the reason why I'm here today. And
I was about to say, it is probably a little throw back to what's hanging on your wall behind you, but it really comes down to family is everything, right? Like, the old saying that it takes a community or it takes a whole tribe to raise a child. It's totally true in everything that we do. There is no real lone wolf game out there. It's all the people you are, that mixture of those 30 people that you spend time with, those 30 people that you're reaching out to, have all helped and shape you and been, maybe a guiding post or a mentor in that right time, or a peer to be able to, have those conversations with you, right? Like you've got another, Teresa's on here. I don't know if you saw
Teresa.
The clip the comment that I put up there, but it's just one more person from your family saying how proud they are for seeing you take that action, man. Like it really is. And it does come down to like, who are you surrounding yourself with?
That says a lot. Teresa, I love Teresa. Love you, Teresa. She used to stop me when I was working in sports and say, Drew, put everything down. You did enough. The weekend's over. You're going to have a drink. You're going to sit down with Howard and I. You're going to have a drink. You're not going to do anything else. You've done everything else. Like she would always find a way to allow me to decompress, take a breath, relax, and just, it was love. It was family. And I never forget about that. And I'm always grateful for her. And thank you, Teresa, for coming on live and actually watching. So like the whole inception was crazy. Like it happened in a matter of months. And I was working with a really talented creative director, Dave Pappas, with Dave Pappas Creative Studios. And we put together the launch of Beyond the Legacy, from the branding standpoint to the content that I wrote. Everything launched in March of 2018. And all that wouldn't be possible with the relationships I had to make that a reality. Too often we think about, I want to create this. I want to do this. I want to start my own business. And then you start saying, wow, that's a lot. Like, who do I know? And how do I get this started? And is there a template, or what is the Bible, or what is the, guide to make all this stuff happen? The reality is, open your eyes. Like, open your eyes, take 10 steps back, try not to solution it in day one, and open your eyes and say like, oh, guess what? I have an amazing CPA in Brian, like my attorney, Craig, like phenomenal in terms of getting me set up with my LLC. It's like everybody serves a purpose in a positive way that can help you get to where you want to go. You definitely got to capture that, be respectful of that, because you just can't call somebody up and say, hey, I need you, when you never were there for them for many, many months and years. And it's like, oh, now you need something.
Yeah.
There's something to be said about being consistent and authentic with your relationships over the years, because if not, when you need to call someone, and this is the thing I always tell people, how many times have you seen an email or a text message or a phone call and you see the caller ID and you go, I know what this person wants. I know exactly what they need from me. And you let it go to voicemail, or you maybe let it sit in your inbox for a little bit. But how many times when you see someone call and they say, hey, I really need to run something by you. And, and they just like, let me know. I'm ready in 5 minutes. Like, Gene, you and I caught up recently just to talk, you being my sounding board for just ideation and talk me off this ledge. I don't want to give away where I'm going to go Beyond the Legacy, but like talk me off this ledge if I'm going crazy with where I'm going to go with betting on myself. So ultimately, Beyond the Legacy ended up being truly my storytelling first. And then it just blew up into me creating this shirt that you're wearing and I'm wearing, giving it to the athletes and their families as my gratitude for them believing in me and trusting me to tell their story.
Yeah.
And then eventually it's like, hey, Drew, my neighbor and my mother and these people want them. And then eventually 30 shirts turned into like 500 shirts. And eventually it became the gratitude movement, the family is everything movement, and the very, very limited edition United We Rise shirt that I came out with over the summer. And I even dabbled in some like 3D animation, shout out to Jacob Rosa with Looking Glass Graphics. Yeah. I mean, he's made, if you look on IG, there's like a really realistic, better looking 3D version of me that is created by Jacob, and he's so talented. He does amazing things. He's an amazing artist, and I just want to give my love to Jacob and Looking Glass Graphics. So that's part of my brand. That's part of what I do. But 2021, let's talk about 2020 and 2021. I'm in a position. I'm betting on myself. I spoke to many people over the last 4 weeks. I've had many conversations with people, and I've been really tossing this around, and I just said to myself, everything I've been doing for the past 25 years, past 20 years, give or take, it's leading me to this moment. And that's why I say life is about timing. The relationships I have from working in sports, the ability to, take those relationships and find a way to help them move forward. And that's part of Beyond the Legacy. It's capturing someone's legacy and allowing it to live on through future generations and future leaders of this country.
Oh, yeah.
So present day, I don't want to name drop. I got to keep it private. I can't. You'll see names in 2021, but I'm working on authoring a book for a NBA veteran right now whose father wrote a book. His father has passed on, and this is his father's legacy. And he's been sitting on this book for many years. And when my availability freed up, he says, Drew, I'm pulling you in. We got to do this. Like, it's meant to be. Yeah. And I am in the process of helping him publish this book and author this book that is going to be truly a captivating story about his father growing up in the segregated South of Whiteville, North Carolina, and everything from all the things he had to deal with that could be relatable to a lot of themes that are happening present day. Like, I feel like the timing of this book is phenomenal, to what it was like, being an absentee father and then coming back into his son's life. And then fast forward to what was it like to recruit, having these amazing Division I household names coming to their house and what those conversations were like. So it's a really interesting read, and I'm working on putting everything together with him in collaboration. That's and awesome. We'll probably be done with it by the end of the year. So stay tuned, and I'll sort of be able to reveal names and links and all that stuff. But between that and many NBA veterans and families and foundations and nonprofit work, that's the space I would like to step into. I'm going to be doing some consulting. I feel helping others is what I do best. Being my authentic self is what I do best. And I'm going to get into consulting from the nonprofit side with athletes and their foundations, and anything from understanding their brand, understanding their why. What is their story? And I always ask this question, why should I care? If you have a foundation, if you have a story you want to pitch, if you have a movie, they're always going to challenge you with, why should I care? Helping them understand that value and share it with the world. Helping them with fundraising, strategy around fundraising, virtual fundraising, and campaigns. And, last but not least, it's finding all the gaps and challenges they're facing as an organization, because you could have an organization for 5 to 10 years, but maybe you're just stale. Maybe you need some fresh energy and some new ideas to infuse, some excitement back into what you're doing to make it thrive again.
Yeah. You're going to help them, give them that reason for getting excited about what they're doing, for getting out of bed in the morning, being like, yes, we get to go, versus, well, there's a big pile of dues that I'm not really looking forward to doing. And in fact, I'm looking forward to finding ways not to do them, right? And what I think your superpower is, it comes around, you said it a few times, is storytelling. That's really weaved into everything that you've been doing, is like cultivating that ability to tell an incredible story, right? Like, humans, we're powered by stories. Like, we tell ourselves our own stories. Like, all of our legends and passed down knowledge is stories, just sometimes it's in written form. Now we get to do it in wonderful videos to capture it, right? Like, for generations to come. And you being able to help people get past their own blinders and their own blind spots to be like, come back and like add some new energy and some new, I'll say new hope into their stories, right? Like, that's going to be what's going to jazz, even saying jazz them up is the weird way of saying it as I say it out loud, but like, but that's what allows you to start to answer that question, why do I care? Be like, well, if you finish telling the story and somebody and the right people, you've told it to the right people and they still are asking, why should I care? Story's not right. Like, you're missing something. You're missing an ingredient. It's not about embellishment or anything else. It's about crafting a really engaging piece around why you should care.
Yes, I agree. And I want to be very clear too. It's just like, it's the relationships too. So it's like, it's not just me, a one-man gang coming into these organizations. It's the strategic partnerships that are part of these conversations I've been having for 20 years. these conversations I've been having for the last 4 weeks. Like, there's amazing partners I might be working with in 2021 that I've worked with in the past, and they just happen to be in the perfect position now to work with in the future. And like, I'm going through this brand transformation as well with Beyond the Legacy. It's, by the time the calendar flips to 2021, you're going to see a new brand identity for Beyond the Legacy. I'm going through that transformation right now with EMI, a very talented creative services agency in the DC metro area. So shout out to Mia and Santiera working for them. They're working with me personally to get my brand to that next level, to those new heights, to share my journey, to share my story, to share my why better, to incorporate the consultancy that I'm going to be doing. It's just being able to focus on everything I do from a content perspective, but also being able to encapsulate what I'm looking to do with regards to my brand and my future.
Right. Well, one thing that keeps standing out is you talk about relationships, and I'd like to like poke a little bit at that is because a lot of people, like when we first started talking about the start of the conversation, it's around like what you did for Joe's son, and like why you did that. It wasn't about a transaction, wasn't about anything else. It was just be like you connected with them and you wanted to continue to connect with them. There was no ulterior motive, right? And a lot of maybe it's generalizing, but like sometimes people go into like networking or building relationships hoping for like an immediate return on it. Be like, but you've spent the last 20 years planting seeds and growing all these relationships, and now you give and you give and you give, and now it's time for you to have an ask, and they're all like, oh yeah, the door's open, buddy, let's go. That would not have happened if you were focusing on just like continuing ask, or if there wasn't an actual relationship there, right? And that's so important. Is I think sometimes we get a little lost in the idea of that not everything's a transactional based experience, right? Like if we're going to connect somewhere, then it's about really connecting. Are we connecting on the same values? Do we have things to share? Do we have an opportunity to collaborate and do something cool down the road? And does this person actually just pass the beer test? Which is, why go have a beer with this person?
Absolutely. Yeah, I feel when I look at relationships, right? How many times we look at LinkedIn and you get these requests like, hey, I'm a CEO too, or I'm a founder, I live in that space, like we should connect. I have people and resources, and there's no authenticity there. Like that is a templated message that they're sending to 500 people, and they're hoping somebody goes, yes, like this person's really cool, and they're reaching out to me and they have a C-level position. Yeah. To me, I remember an NBA veteran pulling me aside. He says, Drew, I'm going to remind you of something every day. Like, the most important thing you could do is always reach out. Always find a way to reach out. And it doesn't have to be about an ask. It should be about how they're doing, how I can help you. How's your family doing? And he's not trying to give me a template or tell me exactly what to say or what to do, but you have to nurture those relationships, because that's how trust comes. That's how respect is earned. Like all those things happen because I look at, if you look at my Instagram over the years, everyone always looks at me and they say, hey, you go to all these like New York Knicks games and you always like taking pictures with athletes and basketball players. And it's not to show off that I'm taking pictures with those guys. If you read the Instagram, there's a story. There's different individuals that I love seeing because they come once or twice a year to New York with their team. Elston Turner, he was with the Houston Rockets this past year. Robert Pack, assistant coach with the Washington Wizards. Those are guys that we just made a pact amongst ourselves to say, every time you're in New York City, we got to catch up. Non-negotiable. I remember helping Robert way back get into coaching through a coaching clinic that was ran in Secaucus, New Jersey for former athletes. And from that point, I knew Robert was going to be a coach. He was a natural. He was a natural leader. He does amazing things in Louisiana with his Robert Pack Foundation. He provides opportunities for children in Louisiana, where he grew up, and he does these summer trips where he's taking them to Howard University, Georgetown University in the DC metro area, showing them, bringing mentors and professionals to speak to them, showing them a life outside of the walls of Louisiana, and being able to show them that you can achieve this. And I remember him telling me this story. He was on the bus and he was exhausted and he was tired, and he just remember them chattering in the background, like the kids. And he says, one of the kids said, I can see myself going to Howard University. And then Robert just woke up and he goes, that's exactly why I do what I do.
Yeah.
And to me, going back to just full circle, it's like, it's those relationships, it's those authentic, genuine relationships, which is why I'm where I am today. You know, it's not, I can't do anything for Robert and Elston Turner. I don't work for the alumni anymore. The fact that they still care about me when I'm outside of that space and we keep in touch as friends and just, you know, people that we care about each other like family, that means a lot. You know, so for me to catch up with them, the beauty is, yes, I get to catch up with them, but I also do something special that if you pay attention to my Instagram, I make sure I rotate and take somebody new with me to share this experience. I always take a new friend or somebody that has never seen a game or never been to a basketball game. And it's one thing to go to a game. It's another thing to have passes to go after the game and hang out with the players and the coaches in the stands in VIP section. Like it's a totally different experience. See, I'm about the experience and what you do for people, not trying to wow them with gifts and different things you can do to win them over. And to me, it's also just being able to show them a life and an experience that it's part of my legacy. You know, at the end of the day, it's like I created something that is going to stay with them. And one day when I'm gone, they're going to say, I am grateful for these things that I experienced with Drew.
Yeah. Well, you're living up to your name beyond the legacy, like in everything that you're doing, from helping with rewrite and edit that book. That's, you know, adding beyond the legacy, and what you're doing here. Again, like I love the you comment about giving people experiences, right? Like it, especially with Christmas time coming around, like what is better to give? I would rather get an experience and be able to have a memory than something that I may even forget about in like 2 months, 3 months, 4 months. Like you know, that in itself is like, that's where the love comes from, and that's the real gift, is be like, wow, you've anchored a memory at a time, you know, even if it's something that comes up in their Facebook memory every year, like that's something that they get to look forward to. Like, oh man, remember when I went with Drew and we did all this cool stuff? Like, man, like what an out of like just a once in a lifetime type thing for some people to do. Yeah, it's something that I was taught growing up. It's something that I believed in when I worked in sports. Like I was grateful to be one of these rare people that got to work in that industry. And growing up a big sports fan, I always said to myself, when I got a chance to receive just those blessings, it wouldn't mean anything to me if I didn't share those blessings with my family and friends. You know, I would come back from these all-star weekends with free sneakers and warm-up suits and merch and different things. Like it was swag to the 10th power in terms of all the stuff that it would come back home with. And to me, it's just distributing them with friends and family and taking folks to games, to taking them to events that they normally wouldn't experience without having that special access to. Oh, Ron's asking how much to move up on the wait list there. Well, you know, Ron is always welcome. He's family. So he just has to lock in. Like tell Ron we got to lock in on a date for that LiveCast or podcast we're going to do. And he's always welcome. The doors are always open with Ron. Love Ron. There's your answer, Ron. Yes, I can imagine COVID is hampering a lot of reunions right now. So yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I guess the larger question to you is share, if it hasn't been shared already, like where did your 5 things you're grateful for started? Like how did that start? How'd that start? Well, I think I was answering this on the last show too, but like it came about, I want to say 2011, 2012. And there was just like an overwhelmingly amount of negative crap on my Facebook feeds. And I was just like, man, like you see people vague posting and like like posting crap on Facebook about I'm so happy about my life. Yet knowing them, I know how unhappy they really are. I'm just like, man, there's just so much fake crap on here. Instead of letting it fester, I was just like, you know what? What's the one thing I can do to change that? So I started, at that point, like something about gratitude had come up, and maybe it was a Tony Robbins thing I listened to or something, but like something triggered the concept about being, if you're constantly being grateful, then it really removes all the opportunity to be in those difficult emotional sets or being in that fixed mindset. So I started posting. I'm like, I think my first post was like, this is my attempt. I may have even used the word battle, but I really don't use that phrasing so much anymore. But it was my attempt to add some positive, knowing that, for every negative, that thing spreads like three. Here's one positive. So we're able to, start to counteract that a little bit. And I started doing it, and people went, oh, I love seeing these. And then I just kept going at it. I wasn't doing it so much. I wasn't doing it for them, really. Like, I was doing it for me as like a way to help, like, work on my own inner self a little bit. And over time, I'd stop and stuff. And the reason I would stop is like it started to become expected, and I was getting like weird comments from people. So I kept it to myself. And then every once in a while, I'd pop back in and start posting them again. And, like I joined this thing called JCI, and I got known as Gratitude Gene, and people were like, oh, people I'd never even met before, or, from the US and from Canada, would be like, oh, I've seen your gratitude posts. They're really cool. And like, they're so inspiring. And none of these people had ever like commented or even reached out. And that's when I kind of realized, I'm like, there's a lot of lurkers out there. And, when you think people aren't watching, they actually are, just because they're not engaging. Maybe they don't feel comfortable, or maybe for whatever reason they don't. And so I've been somewhat steady with it. And now as I've started like Peeled Back and everything else, like one of the things I've started is this Let's Get Uncomfortable challenge. And part of it is a daily gratitude. Again, you're just taking my own things that worked, and like everybody that's in the challenge does 5 things every day that they're grateful for. And I have these daily, I call them daily amp ups. And one around mindset is that they have to call somebody or have a conversation with somebody and let them know why they're grateful for their friendship, or, what really, why, that they love them. Really, it's about spreading the love and getting people to look on the brighter side. It's not about being positive. It's just about being grateful. And it's a lot different than just be happy, because that's bullshit. We're not always just happy. We're all these spectrums of the emotional scale, and all of them are okay. And some of them are a little bit more difficult to sit with. But if we can start to find the gratitude in all situations, I find it really helps to kind of bring down, it actually gives you a space between having a reaction and then having a response to something. You're like, all right, you know what? Like, maybe down the road, I'm going to actually be pretty grateful for what just happened. It may seem bad, but it's, what doors did this just open? So in a long tail form, that's where it started. And this is where gratitude continues to take me in my daily journeys, is just allowing myself to be a little bit more centered in life and hope to spread that a little bit more. Like I just want it more. If only one, we actually have 9 people watching right now, which is a record. So thank you to everybody that's watching. True, you've got some pull power. But like, even if one person has never even thought about like gratitude in that way before, is like, just deploy it daily, and just see what happens over a course of a month, over the course of 3 months, over a course of the year. Next thing you know, you're 5 years into it, and you look at life in a bigly different way.
I feel you got to trust your heart. Like when I think of gratitude, and it's like to what you just said, at the end of the day, who cares what people might not say or what they're not saying? To me, it's, if it means something to you and it's authentic to you, it's like, that's why I do my Monday motivation. Are 10 people reading it? Are 1,000 people reading it? It doesn't matter if it's only one person reading it. Sometimes you are hitting people, and the content you might put out might resonate with that one person. And when I look at gratitude, it's that silver lining, right? It's the silver lining of, we all go through some really tough adversity and situations. Like, if 2020 is a thing, I mean, have you noticed how many more times you've seen the word grateful and gratitude in 2020 than ever before?
Oh,
You
yeah.
know, it was almost just like every time you look on the news, grateful. I'm gratitude for this and gratitude for the essential workers. And I'm grateful for this, particular thing. It's like now you're thinking about it. Now it's all of a sudden a cool thing to name drop a lot. Like, I'm not saying it's not timely. I just feel like you and I and many others that believe in like the good things in life have been living this before this T-shirt even existed.
Yeah.
That's just what I'm all about.
I think for me, I look at gratitude as my. I'm still working on this metaphor, so bear with me. But it's my armor to be able to sit and handle the difficult situations or the difficult emotions. If I'm grateful, then I know it helps protect me. And like those hits, you're still gonna feel it, but it's gonna be a lot lighter, and you're gonna be able to get up afterwards from it, shake it off, and call it some dirty names and go right back at it, because that's what life's all about. Like, you're going to get hit.
Yes.
So why not just accept that and go, okay, you're trying to tell me something. I don't know what that message is yet, but I can still be grateful for the hit, to know that I can still get up, right? For all of us that are still standing here today, we've made it through every one of our bad days so far. So let's keep on doing that. And there's secrets to success built into each one of those days.
Yeah, and I just want to say to the people that are watching, to the people that are going to watch the replay, there's a lot of people that I would have to need like some type of rolling credits at the end of a movie to thank, but it's all those conversations, all those people, all those family and friends and folks that believe in me and have had my back since day one. To take that phone conversation at 2:00 in the morning, to take that conversation at last minute. And it's not because, oh God, like Drew is like needs something from me. It's just whatever Drew needs, he's been there for me tenfold, and that's what I live my life for. It's being able to, return that gratitude and show people that it's a two-way street. It's not just giving, it's also a two-way street in terms of receiving. And that's where we need to live. It's like, don't always expect to receive something back, because you're doing something for someone, just because you might pay it forward. And it's like, okay, that person owes me eventually. No, you're doing it out of the kindness of your heart. You're doing it because it matters to you. You're doing it because you care. And I think more people need to have that mindset, and then their life would be a lot better in terms of clarity and actually, just moving forward.
Oh yeah, it's if you're gonna give, just give because it speaks to your value, because it's what's connecting, right? Like, if you start giving it with the hopes of receiving, be like, I don't know, you're just not gonna get what you could truly get. Like, if you're willing, I've always been a big believer, whatever you put out there, it's gonna come back at you 5, 10x. And so if you put out good, it's gonna eventually make its way back, and it's gonna be an incredible amount. If you put out shit, it's going to come back as a really bad situation for you. So it's your choice. You have these choices, and no one's putting a gun to your head one way or the other. And if you don't want to give, then don't, because it doesn't feel right. But if it feels right, give. And sometimes that give can just be like saying hello to somebody, or putting a smile on their face. Like, in future episodes, I have Michael Ray from the Smile Project coming on. We're going to be talking about the gift of smiles, right? Like, it can be that small just to enhance somebody's day, to make their whole day, right? It's just like, oh, I see you, and I bring you into being because I see you. And there's an interesting Zulu word, which I probably will screw up, but Zuluban, which translates into I see you, and it brings you into being. Right, it's a way that people say hello. I heard it on the Ed Mallett podcast yesterday, and with Dr. Susan David. I've listened to that podcast now about 4 times, and it's just like that one thing is like, I see you. We don't see each other enough. Like, actually, truly seeing somebody for who they are, for the soul they are.
I agree. So going back to your point about everything coming full circle. Karma, right? In terms of things coming back to you. Like, to me, I always say, like, it all starts with you, right?
Yeah.
It starts with your inner self. Like, you got to believe and be all in with yourself first. Because if you're not all in, like, there is no gray area. There is no, like, maybe, hey, we have this event going on, and you get that RSVP of, like, maybe. Like, no, you're either in or you're out. You're either all in or you're out. There is no gray area or in between. There is no, like, let me just sit on it and think about it. My take is truly this. To the people that believe in me, to the people that are grateful for me, for the people that have had my back since day one, thank you. I genuinely thank you. And that comes from the heart because of everything I do for you, everything I do for your families, because I love you guys. For the people that don't want to see me succeed, for the people that don't believe in me, for the people that, hey, stop believing me, I want to say thank you as well. Because at the end of the day, they're my motivation to stay humble. They're my motivation to keep grinding. And they're my motivation to stay my authentic self. Because that's what makes me sleep better at night.
Yep. I love that you just thanked all of them. I think that's incredible. And a lot of people miss that point. Is like, you could look at them as detractors, or you could look at them as fuel and motivation, or you can just be like, cool, I don't speak to you, and that's okay as well. Like that's okay as well.
Yeah. Like not everything's meant to last.
No.
Certain things are seasonal, certain things are temporary. To me, at the end of the day, I look at it as, cherish the purpose, cherish whatever that silver lining is, and move on. That's the key. Like, don't drag me down, in terms of, like, putting me in a position of, like, sinking to your level. To me, it's like, I'm only moving forward. Life goes on. We've been through some tough stuff. The fact that you and I are having this conversation right now in 2020 is like, I'm blessed. Yeah. I'm blessed for having this conversation.
Well, I'm blessed for having you on today, man. Like, it's been incredible. Like you say, we've known each other for like 11 years. And watched the growth on both sides and where it's gone to, and just to be able to have the tools to be able to have this it's just, we live in an incredible time. Yeah, there might be some crazy crap going on, but there's a lot of good if you look for it too.
I agree.
Yeah,
I agree.
You get what you focus on.
Yes. And that's where you got to center your energy. To me, I always tell people, like, do what you love and love what you do. If that's not the case, then you need to, like, really rethink what's going on in your world. Honestly, it's no joke. Like, to me, we get easily thrown in this pocket of comfort. Like, there's that pocket of safety. It's like, well, I got health insurance and I got a 401k and I have this and I have that and I make good money. Great, but are you happy?
Yeah.
And sometimes the answer is no. And they say, well, I just need to keep doing this because of my family. And the reality is, are you happy?
Yeah.
It's like, life is way too short to do the things and be with the people that don't mean anything to you or don't serve a purpose.
Yeah.
So, you got to live your life.
Well, no, it's either you live your life by your plans, or someone's gonna do that for you. So Amen. You choose who's writing that story, right? Come right back to stories again, right? It's you're the author, and if you choose to put the pen down, there's a price to pay.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. As I told you, man, these things end up just going on. We're at 55 minutes.
Okay. Hopefully we didn't lose any followers during this.
There's still 7 awesome people spread across Facebook and YouTube watching this right now. So I think that's in itself is incredible. Like, it's a vanity metric, but it's still cool to know that people stuck around for this whole 55 minutes. So thank you very much. And I hope everyone's gotten something out of this. I'm really grateful for it. And I'm grateful for Drew being able to be an encouragement for people to come listen to this conversation today. Drew, I have my question for you.
Go for it.
All right. So what would you tell, if you went back in time 20 years ago, what would be your advice to that Drew now?
How far are we going back?
20. Let's go 20 years to right to the beginning.
20 years. So obviously, based on Back to the Future references, I can't tell my younger Drew the sports teams to bet on. So I can't do that to change the course of history or my fortunes. Or stock to put stock into. I can't do that. But I would say the reality is truly this. Don't be afraid to fail. Like, life is like not about perfection. To me, it's about progress, not perfection. I always tell people that it's about learning from these mistakes that you might make. Yeah. To me, it's like we often say, like, I want things to work out perfectly. No, I'm actually grateful for failed personal relationships. I'm grateful for, opportunities that I didn't walk into career-wise. Yeah. I'm grateful for moving on from certain situations that I was locked into. So like every mistake that happened in my life served a purpose, and I learned the lesson, and I was able to take that and possibly take that and share with somebody else that was going through that same story 20 years later. And I'm like, I saw this movie before. It happened to me. This person is having this same situation. Here's how I can advise them. So to me, it's just live and be open to making mistakes, but also continue to not take relationships for granted. It's like making sure that you connect on a genuine, authentic level from start to finish and keep in touch with those folks. Like I said, we're all guilty of losing touch with people. Like I said, I will apologize to anyone I might have lost touch with, or they might have fell off the face of the earth, or they might think I'm ignoring them. But to me, we only have so much time, so many hours in the day. There's only so much space that we can allow people to enter our lives and consume. My feeling is, I would tell myself, you're going to create something amazing based on your morals and your values. And to me, I look at, beyond the legacy. You might say, well, why didn't this happen sooner? Life is really about timing. Beyond the legacy wasn't meant to be born 20 years ago. No, it was meant to be nurtured. So now, 20 years later, walking away from the sports industry, everything is coming full circle. The relationships, the people I met in between that period of time that I could partner with, to, right time, right place. And I think, if anything, it's just bringing clarity. And I just want to wrap a bow around and just say thank you to everyone that's sort of supporting me and that's there for me, that's going to watch this replay, that's going to cheer for me on the sidelines, and is going to be part of maybe my podcast conversation. So I'm putting it out there to everybody. If you want to sort of have this one-on-one conversation about subjects and topics that matter to you, anything from, mental health to, serious matters to, light matters. I'm willing to have those conversations with friends and athletes and family that want to sit down with me and share it with the world, because you just never know who you're going to impact.
Well, I'm going to put my hand up and be like, I want to be part of those conversations for
Absolutely.
sure.
Absolutely.
That when it's up there. And as well, Teresa made a comment about life lessons and experiences are over time and not always overnight. 100% true. Like, overnight successes take 5 to 7 years to come about. And Drew, you're just starting the journey on this, right? You've been working on it for a couple of years now, and now you get to focus on it. I'm so excited for what 2021 is going to bring for you, and what you're going to bring to the rest of the world through your passion and just your way to connect so many people together.
Thank you.
Yeah, man. All right. Any last pearls of wisdom you want to put out there before we end the broadcast?
I just want to wish everyone a good weekend. For those that are going to take the time and buckle down and have this 60-minute video replayed in their car or replayed somewhere in their house or device, like, thank you for taking the time to listen to Gene and I and have this conversation around gratitude, relationships, and just my journey with Beyond the Legacy.
Yeah, you know what? And I think that's incredible, man. And to everybody that's been part of this today, thank you so much for your engagement, for your comments. It's been great. We got a heart from Facebook from Lauren Freestone. So
love Lauren.
So you know what? Thanks for the heart there. So that's incredible. And Drew, this has been an incredible conversation. I can't say incredible enough. I'm so happy that you were up for being on this and starting to share more about what's going on in your life. Because, like I say, there's some exciting things around the corner for you, my friend.
I agree.
Yeah.
I'm excited. I'm ready to go. But let's get through 2020 first, and then we'll get to 2021. You know, it's all a progression. Let's just focus on spending some time with family to close out the year.
Yeah, I agree. Go work on those relationships because they're going to really, everyone's going to need it. And we've got still a lot to go through, and life's not short. So let's actually enjoy it a little bit all together, and we can do that if we all put in a little bit of something together every day.
Amen, brother.
All right. Well, everyone, my name is Gene, and this has been the Peeled Back's LiveCast conversation with Drew Stevens. Thank you. We're on the air again next Wednesday and Friday, so look forward to those on Facebook and LinkedIn and YouTube. That's where it'll all be posted. So, again, have a great weekend, everybody. Be safe, and we'll talk to you soon.
Take care.